In King's Landing, we see Cersei slowly losing her marbles because she's losing all control over her youngest son. Tommen ends up marrying Marjorie Tyrell in place of his deceased big brother Joffrey. Good riddance, by the way. Cersei, in an attempt to regain some of that control, empowers the Faith Militant, led by the High Sparrow, a dude who feels like he doesn't need to wear actual clothes. He just wears like a potato sack, and he doesn't wear shoes, and he definitely needs a bath because he looks like he smells terrible. However, one of the members of the Faith Militant happens to be Lancel Lannister, Cersei's cousin, and one of the many dudes she cheated on her late husband King Robert Baratheon with. Lancel tells the High Sparrow about Cersei's adultery, and she is thrown into one of the Sept's prison cells. She is starved and tormented until she confesses to her crimes, where she is forced to take a shame walk through King's Landing. She is stripped naked and her hair is cut very short. As she makes her walk, she's hit with rocks and fruits and trash and shit by the people watching her make her walk. She finally arrives at the Red Keep with bloodied feet and an absolute mess, and is picked up by a reborn version of the Mountain, Gregor Clegane, who's basically just a zombie now. Shame. 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 Across the sea in Meereen, Dany is struggling to hold on to the city as the Sons of the Harpy have been murdering her unsullied warriors as well as former slaves that she freed. Dany then decides to reopen the fighting pits in order to try and get the Sons of the Harpy to stop murdering people. Dany goes to one of the first smaller fights upon reopening, where she finds the exiled Jorah as the winner. Jorah presents to her a gift, the one and only Tyrion Lannister, who he kidnapped at a brothel in Volantis. Dany accepts Tyrion into her court as an advisor, but stands firm on her exile of Jorah. Then the main fighting pit is opened, and once again Jorah fights before Dany and wins. But this time he ends up saving her life, as the opening of the fighting pit was nothing more than a scheme by the Sons of the Harpy to murder Dany and everyone around her. She seems to be stuck in the middle, ready to die, as Drogon flies in. He burns a crap ton of people to ashes, and then Dany gets on his back and flies away, leaving everyone else in Meereen. We take a quick look at Stannis Baratheon. He wants Jon Snow to become the Lord of Winterfell because he's the rightful heir, but Jon says no, so Stannis heads to Winterfell in order to take on the Boltons. At the suggestion of Melisandre, Stannis burns his own daughter Shireen alive because she has King's blood, and she's a sacrifice to the Lord of Light. Half of Stannis' troops desert him because they know it was terrible. And then they find Stannis' wife hanging from a tree, having committed suicide. Stannis then gets absolutely destroyed by the Boltons just outside Winterfell. But he escapes the carnage, sits against a tree, and is killed by the one and only Brienne of Tarth as revenge for the death of Renly. Now we look at Sansa, who was given to the Boltons by Littlefinger and forced to marry Ramsay Bolton, who's an absolute fucking monster, by the way, like worse than Joffrey. Sansa is none the wiser until after they are officially wed and Ramsay rapes her, which is like the most disgusting and horrifying thing I've ever seen in a TV show. Sansa is strong enough to endure that horrendous experience, and with the help of Reek ends up escaping Winterfell and Ramsay during the battle with Stannis. Ramsay then kills his own father so he can officially become Lord of Winterfell, and ends up feeding his stepmother and baby stepbrother to his hounds. He is so effing disgusting. Oh, I just threw up in my mouth. In Braavos, our good friend Arya has begun training at the House of Black and White, and she's given her first mission to kill a dishonest merchant. But when she's doing her reconnaissance, she sees Meryn Trant, a member of Joffrey's Kingsguard and a name on her list. She abandons her mission and ambushes Trant in a brothel and kills him viciously. As punishment, Jaqen H'ghar makes her drink something that takes away her sight. Lastly, we have Jon Snow at the Wall. After denying Stannis' request for him to become Lord of Winterfell, Jon is elected Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Many of the Night's Watch hate Jon's election, but a lot of them actually support him. Then Jon decides to help the wildlings, knowing the White Walkers are coming. He takes Stannis' fleet of ships to Hardhome to get a large number of wildlings to the other side of the wall. As they are loading the ships, they are attacked by the White Walkers, and hundreds are killed. As Jon escapes, the Night King walks out onto the pier, raises his arms, and we watch the dead bodies rise again as whites, which is so creepy. Maester Aemon ends up dying of old age, and Jon sends Sam to Old Town to train to become the new Maester for the Night's Watch. With Sam gone, Jon loses a lot of the people who have supported him, and many of the people who already hated him have convinced others to hate him for helping the wildlings. Jon's steward, young Ollie, comes to him and tells him that someone is waiting for him in the courtyard. Jon walks out to find a sign planted in the snow that reads, "Traitor." Confused, Jon turns around to find a group of men he thought were his brothers behind him. They each take turns stabbing Jon in the stomach, saying, "For the watch." Jon then collapses into the snow, slowly bleeding out, and dies.
The hashtag Dork Podcast.